Right, so Thor, Love and Thunder, it's out. I remember the video I did on the trailer for this, and I really liked it. And then I saw the second trailer and I really liked it. So I was worried going into the movie that the trailer's going to look good and that I wasn't going to like it. But Taika Waititi's done it again. I've seen a lot of... first things first. This video will be spoiler heavy. I'm not going to play-by-play the whole movie, but I am going to touch on key points, touch on the things that I got hype about, some things that I didn't like, because, dare I say it, I do have some critiques about the film, because, you know, I'm a Marvel fanboy, so I'm going to have critiques about the thing that I love, because that's what being a fan is being able to love something and also find fault in it, because you come to a realization that not everything is perfect, and this movie is not... It's not perfection. I'm still trying to figure out whether I like this more than Ragnarok. It's a toss-up between the two. They're both leagues above the first two Thor movies, but it's a toss-up between the two, which ones I like more. Arguably, I like the villain more in this. Not arguably, actually. I think Christian Bale does an amazing job as Gore the God Butcher. Perfect casting. I don't care that it was basically just Christian Bale with face paint on and a few scars. It was still, you know, I think the performance was good enough, and was like the performance was more than good enough. The performance was standout, and I think he's earned his way up to being one of the strongest Marvel villains, and definitely the strongest one movie solo villain, because I found that if a villain is confined to one movie, they are usually less impactful or less interesting than the villains that are in, you know, like Thanos that was in two movies and cameoed in a few, or Loki that's been in several movies and has kind of gone on his own story arc, or someone like Nebula who also has gone on a Loki-esque story arc as well. I think Gore and Mandarin do show this kind of shift of we've done as much storytelling with our heroes as we can do. We can have a different arc and a different theme for our heroes in each movie, but they've had their standout character moments, so the standout moments are coming from the villains now, and that's great. That's awesome. I like the things this movie does with colour. I like the things that this movie does. There's a specific scene in the movie where all of the colour's just gone, and then when there is like little pops of like red and the lightning, and it really shows off Thor's powers in a way that we've never seen it before, and it shows off just how powerful and just how threatening Gore is. I keep on with all the stuff that I do like. I like the tone. I really like the tone. It feels like what Thor should be. I've seen a lot of people complain that Thor shouldn't be a comedic character. Fuck off. He should be. It works really well for the character to be like just so kind of flippant in a way. And there's like the opening action sequence, I don't think is as impactful as the opening action sequence of Ragnarok. I think the rest of the movie is good and better. than Ragnarok, but I feel like the opening sequence, I feel like you get a lot more. You're definitely pushed into the movie a lot more with Ragnarok, and it's like, this is going to be completely different than those other two movies, and it's going to be nothing like what you've seen before. And because the tone was established there, they didn't need to do that here. So you get Gorr's backstory for a good 5-10 minutes, and then it's the Thor action sequence, the Thor starting action sequence that you loved from Ragnarok. And it's not quite as, it doesn't quite do the same things where it's like following the hammer, because there's no Mjolnir, it's Stormbringer, but it doesn't play with the camera as well as something like the opening action sequence of Ragnarok does. But those kind of things come later, and the cool things that it does with the camera in Ragnarok are the cool things that this movie does with colour, and the cool thing that this movie does with shadows, and the cool things that this movie does with it does have a scene later on where it plays with the camera really well, but that opening action sequence may not do it for as many people as anything else. It's just an excuse to have the Guardians there. It's an excuse to kind of bridge the end of Endgame with how this movie will start, and that kind of, it felt good, and the tone of that is definitely the tone that you get with the rest of the movie. It does get dark, like all of the stuff with Gorr is as dark as it should be, right? And there is as much like emotion and as much kind of drama pushed into that, and you get all of the character moments with Gorr, and Thor is, they're pumping out jokes, and Korg is there, and Korg is in the movie for much longer than he is in Thor Ragnarok, and that might be something that you like or something that you don't like. I really liked Korg in Ragnarok. I like him here as well. I think Taika Waititi is a funny man, and he's like, I think Korg has some really funny lines in this, and yeah, the whole joke of giant character with like a really nasally Australian voice it doesn't wear off, and it doesn't wear thin because of things that they do with Korg in this movie, and how they play with the humor of that character, and how they do things with that character to make him interesting as well. Valkyrie is back, and she's interesting because she's like calling herself King Valkyrie, which is cool. Why not? And she's kind of turned New Asgard into this like shipping port town. That's like, she's basically turned it into Disney World. That's basically what she's done, and it's really cool. Yeah, the whole visual of seeing all of these boats and basically turning a shipping port town in like on the coast of England into basically this Asgardian kind of place, and that action sequence that happens in New Asgard is really cool, where we get to see Gorr make all the shadow monsters, and then we get the introduction of Jane Foster as the mighty Thor. I liked Jane Foster in this movie. I obviously really like Natalie Portman because she's a good actress, not for other reasons. But yeah, I like Natalie Portman. She does a really good job. She did a good enough job in the first two Thor movies. She did the best that she could with, an okay script. But here she's given character, she's given purpose, she's given, emotion, she's given a really, interesting storyline that I think a lot of people are going to get behind. and that a lot of people are going to find like they're going to relate to Jane in this movie, because she's got cancer, but she's using the hammer, or she's using Mjolnir to kind of escape from the cancer. But every time she uses it, and she doesn't find this, we don't find this out until later on in the movie, like before just going into the final act. She doesn't. Every time she uses the hammer, it like delays the treatment, which is exactly what happens in the comics as well. But what happens in the comics is she decides to abscond from the hammer, and she doesn't pick it up. But at the end of the movie, she uses the hammer to save Thor in the big showdown, which wasn't as cool, or as the end fight wasn't as cool as the end fight in Ragnarok. It wasn't. And there's going to be a lot of comparisons to this in Ragnarok, because they're the same director, same tone. It's a Thor movie. So, you know, there's going to be things. But the things that are interesting with the final act of the movie isn't seeing Thor and Gore fight. It's seeing, you know, it's the emotional side that happens after the big fight. It's the way that the movie kind of ends and comes to a close. So the whole thing leading up to the big fight is that Gore attacks New Asgard and, you know, tries to kill Thor there, isn't able to, so he takes all of the children from New Asgard. And this is where a few tonal things kind of mess up in my head, because we have this like buddy road trip comedy movie with Thor and his ragtag team of his ex-girlfriend with his ex-weapon, Valkyrie, and some rock man and two goats, which are the best part of the movie. The two goats. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. But we have that, and them going to I'm just going to call it Olympus. I'm not going to call it fucking Omnipotent City. It's Olympus, because Zeus is there. He makes Thor go naked, and then there's a big fight, and Thor steals Zeus's thunderbolt to go fight Gore. But Gore's taken all these children, and then all of the scenes with Gore are really good, but they feel like they belong in a different film. The tone is so different between Christian Bale's Gore and how dark that character is, and Chris Hemsworth's Thor, and and that like buddy road trip comedy side to this really dark, fucked up child kidnapper that's like a really dark, broken character. But the way that it culminates and the way that it comes together, and every scene that Christian Bale and Chris Hemsworth are together in works weirdly. It's when they're not together that you feel a tonal shift, but when they're bouncing off of each other, when Thor is quipping, but Gore is like just like unfazed by it, or is like just cool your axe. It's fun, and Christian Bale gives a really good performance. But by the end of the movie, Jane and Thor, when Thor ends up saving the kids, he makes them all pick up weapons and then imbues all of their weapons with the power of Thor, which I didn't know that he was able to do, but it leads to a cool action sequence, so I'll forgive it. And then big fight happens. Jane uses the hammer one more time, so she ends up collapsing because of the cancer, and then Eternity's opened up because Gore uses Stormbreaker to call the Bifrost to open Eternity, and then Eternity's just there, and Gore's about to wish all of the gods to die, and Thor manages to say, no, you don't want that. What you want is your daughter back. And so Gore wishes for his daughter back, but he dies and Jane dies at the same time. And weirdly, it doesn't feel as rushed or as uneventful as Odin dying in Ragnarok. This time it nearly did bring a tear to my eye because it happens at the end of the movie. Odin dying in Ragnarok happens like right before Hela shows up. Like, Odin fades away and then Hela shows up. So it feels worthwhile then. And you had this whole movie with Jane getting to learn her powers and also learning about her tragedy. And you really felt for her by the end. And then she's gone. Like... Like, it's a really gut-wrenching scene, and then Gore dies, so Thor is left with this child, and the end of the movie is basically Thor's now a dad. And that's something that I found interesting about the most recent Marvel movies, is more so than like Phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 4 seems to be giving characters, like, monumental character shifts. Like, maybe not Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange knows about the multiverse, and, like, he's not Sorcerer Supreme, Wong is. But that movie was more about Scarlet Witch's monumental character change, leading to her death. I don't think they're gonna kill off Scarlet Witch forever. But it's at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, everyone forgets who Peter Parker is, so that's kind of monumental. And then at the end of this, Thor's now got a daughter, or got an adoptive daughter, and that's a big event. Like, what's gonna happen in the next movie? I mean, we know what's gonna happen in the next movie if you stayed for the end credits. Best end credits of any Thor movie, I think, ever, because it's Hercules. I think we all knew that Hercules was going to show up in this movie at some point. It's not the actor that I thought it would be, but I'm not mad about it, because it's not someone that I recognise, so it means that I won't see an actor, I will just see Hercules. I mean... Fucking Hercules. This is someone that I've been pitching to come into the MCU since Infinity War ended. You know, and now we're getting Hercules in the MCU, and he looks perfect. He looks right. And I figure I know that movie. I know what's going to happen in Thor 5, if it even is Thor 5. But if Thor can get 4 movies, he can get 5 movies. I genuinely think he can get 5 movies. Like, why not? Why can't he? But yeah, I loved this one. I genuinely did. I was in the middle with Multiverse of Madness. I thought it was okay. It was good, but it wasn't spectacular. It wasn't the event that I wanted it to be, and it wasn't the event that No Way Home was. No Way Home was an event of a movie. It was as important, if not more important, than something like Endgame for me. And for a lot of Spider-Man fans, it was the Spider-Man Endgame. It was like everything culminating together, and it was a movie that felt satisfying for fans of Tom Holland as well, and the MCU storyline as well. It didn't feel like it was rushed. And that's the same thing with Love and Thunder. Like, I've seen people go against this movie for being too funny, or for having too many jokes in it. That's what a Thor movie is going to be now. That's what Taika Waititi wants the character to be, and that's how I like the character. And that's Thor now. That's the MCU Thor now. He is this kind of like jokey, very wholesome kind of guy, and he feels right. It feels right for Thor to be like this in this world, and you know, I genuinely I liked this movie. I liked every second of it. I do have some niggles. I do have some things. The movie never stops. By that notion, I mean that some of the jokes go on a bit too long. And what I mean by that is specifically the goats. I know I said that the goats are the best part of the movie. They're the best part of the first 5 seconds that they're on screen. Every time I heard a goat scream in this movie, it genuinely made me want to rip my ears out. Genuinely. And that's the biggest issue I think I can have. That, and maybe I feel like like the inclusion of Sif was a bit weird. Like, if you were thinking Jamie Alexander's back, she's gonna be a big part of this movie. She's in one scene. I think she gets like 2 lines. Or she's in 2 scenes. She gets 2 lines, and that's it. So you're not getting big Sif moments. There's no Loki in this movie, which is, I think, a good thing. It's a blessing. It shows that Thor can stand on his own without Tom Hiddleston, and can still be interesting, and can still be fun without Tom Hiddleston to bounce off of. The only thing that I kind of don't like is that every MCU Thor movie has kind of had to be a team dynamic. They've never let Thor really be on his own. Even in the culmination of this, Jane shows up, and there's all the kids fighting as well. So, yeah. And obviously the tonal shifts between the scenes with Gore, you know, torturing children, basically. Not really torturing them. He just kind of gets like a shadow snake and like rips its head off, and is like, well, I thought you liked that a minute ago, and then chucks it at him, and then it chucks a dead snake at these fucking 5-year-olds. So the tonal shift between that and the Thor buddy road trip comedy, Russell Crowe coming down in a tutu kind of thing, that was kind of weird. But it is good that every scene that not Benedict Cumberbatch, fucking Christian Bale was in, you genuinely felt uneasy or on edge whenever he was on screen, and that feels good. It genuinely, it's a sign of a good villain when you feel physically a bit sick every time that they appear on screen. and that's like partially the makeup, partially because the performance is so dark, and it really juxtaposes. The more I think about it, it does juxtapose well from the rest of the movie, and the rest of the movie being like a buddy road trip comedy. Because if it was all that, it would be far too similar to Ragnarok, and I'm a big fan of where this movie sits in the tone point of view, and I'm a big fan of a lot of the things this movie does, and more Korg is always good. The promise of Hercules is something that has me interested in where the Thor movies themselves are going to go. I think when everything else has just been a little bit hit or miss, it's good to see that Marvel still knows what they're doing and can put out a really quality movie. And that's what this is. It's a massive love letter to 80s metal, and a lot of the imagery in this is like an 80s metal band cover, and even the font of the opening is 80s metal band cover, and the closing credits is an 80s metal font, and the soundtrack is bullissimo. Everything about this movie, I feel like, got it right, and I can't wait for the next one, because there's bound to be a next one, because Hercules, unless if Hercules is getting a Disney Plus series, or if that's getting followed up in the Loki Disney Plus series, which I will be very disappointed by. But yeah, I want to see where they go with this, what they do with Hercules. I want to see if this actor is any good, because it's a Brit playing a Greek. Two Brits playing a Greek. I really like this one. I'll see you guys in the next video. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Thor: Love and Thunder. If you have a problem with Korg being gay, or with Valkyrie being gay, unsubscribe from my channel. Go throw yourself off a bridge in the nicest way possible. If you have a problem with that, I have a problem with you. So goodbye. If you don't have a problem with that, good job. You get to stay with the channel. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.